3 names, 3 profiles, gone overnight. No press conference, no formal announcement, just silence. The kind of silence that in China usually means something very, very bad has happened. Xi Jinping, one of the architects of China's nuclear warhead program. Wu Manqing, the mastermind behind the radar systems that make China's Air Force a genuine threat. Wei Yin, the missile expert who helped build the weapons that keep American admirals awake at night. All 3 of them suddenly erased from the Chinese Academy of Engineering's website as if they never existed. And here's the thing that should terrify you. Their disappearance comes at a moment when Xi Jinping's military purge has reached levels not seen since the chaos of the Cultural Revolution. If you're wondering what's really going on inside China's military right now, stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is going to change how you see the entire balance of power in Asia. Before we dive in, if you find this kind of in-depth analysis valuable, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what's happening in China right now. Your support helps us keep bringing you these stories that the mainstream media often overlooks. Let's get into it. So let me paint the picture for you. On March 13, 2026, something strange happened on the Chinese Academy of Engineering's website. It's one of the most prestigious scientific institutions in all of China, a think tank that advises the State Council directly. Membership there is considered one of the highest honors any scientist or engineer can achieve in the entire country. And suddenly, 3 of its most prominent members simply vanished from the online records. Xi Jinping, 72 years old. Wu Manqing, 60 years old. Wei Yin, 63 years old. All 3 were vice presidents of the Academy at various points. All 3 held positions at the very pinnacle of China's defense industrial complex. And all 3 are now officially, at least according to the Academy's website, nobodies. Now, you might be thinking, okay, maybe it's just a website glitch. Maybe someone made a mistake. But here's what you need to understand about how China works. In China, nothing happens by accident. When a profile disappears from an official government or party website, it means something. It means that person has fallen out of favor. It means investigations are likely underway. It means that everything that person accomplished, everything they contributed, is now politically radioactive. And when we're talking about men who helped design nuclear weapons, build radar systems for fighter jets, and develop cruise missiles, the implications are absolutely staggering. Let me tell you who these men actually are, because their backgrounds reveal just how significant this really is. Start with Xi Jinping. This man is not just any scientist. He's one of the principal architects of China's nuclear weapons program in the years after the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Think about that for a second. When China could no longer conduct nuclear tests, they needed scientists who could maintain and modernize their nuclear arsenal through computer simulations and theoretical physics. Zhao was one of the leaders of that effort. He built the numerical simulation platforms that allowed China to develop new nuclear warheads without ever detonating them. He was awarded the National Science and Technology Progress Award, first prize, 3 separate times. He served on the Communist Party's Central Committee during 2 consecutive party congresses. He was a member of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. This wasn't some mid-level functionary. This was one of the most important scientists in all of China, and he's been erased. Then there's Wu Manqing. If you've ever wondered how China managed to develop air defense and early warning systems that genuinely worry American military planners, Wu Manqing is a big part of the answer. He pioneered digital array radar technology in China, leading the development of the KJ-500 airborne early warning and control aircraft. For those who don't follow military technology closely, the KJ-500 is China's answer to the American E-3 Sentry, Those big planes with the rotating radar domes on top that can track 100 targets simultaneously. General Kenneth Wilsbach, the head of U.S. Pacific Air Forces, publicly acknowledged how impressed he was with how well China's KJ-500 platforms coordinate with their J-20 stealth fighters. Wu's work allowed China to shed its dependence on foreign technology for these critical systems. He graduated from the National University of Defense Technology with a master's degree in 1990. He was elected to the Chinese Academy of Engineering in 2009. He served as the general manager of China Electronics Technology Group Corporation, one of the largest defense electronics companies in the world. And now his profile is gone. And finally, Wei Yin, a missile expert who spent his career at China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation, the country's sole producer of cruise missiles. We're talking about the company that builds the weapon systems designed to sink American aircraft carriers, strike military bases across the Pacific, and hold Taiwan at risk. Wei served as deputy general manager of this massive state-owned enterprise. He was elected to the Chinese Academy of Engineering in 2019. He was instrumental in developing stealth drones and high-speed combat reconnaissance platforms. And just like the other two, he's been digitally deleted from China's official records. Now, here's where this story gets really interesting. These 3 disappearances don't exist in a vacuum. They're part of a pattern that has been building for years, but has reached absolutely unprecedented levels in 2026. Let me walk you through the timeline because when you see it all laid out, you'll understand why analysts are calling this the biggest purge of China's military leadership in the history of the People's Republic. It started ramping up in mid-2023 when the commanders of the PLA rocket force suddenly disappeared. Liu Chao, the commander, and his deputies were reportedly detained in June of that year. No announcement, no explanation, just gone. Then, in October 2023, Defense Minister Li Shangfu was removed after vanishing from public view for 2 months. His predecessor, Wei Fenghe, who served from 2018 to 2023, was also eventually targeted. By June 2024, both Li Shangfu and Wei Fenghe had been formally expelled from the Communist Party on corruption charges. The official accusation was that they had accepted huge sums of money in bribes, sought personnel benefits for themselves and others, and caused great damage to the party's cause and national defense. But the purges didn't stop there. In October 2024, He Weidong, one of the 2 vice chairmen of the Central Military Commission, was expelled and replaced. Then in November 2024, Miao Hua, the head of the CMC's Political Work Department, was suspended for disciplinary violations. This was the department responsible for personnel and ideological indoctrination within the military. If corruption had reached that department, it meant the rot had spread to the very institution designed to maintain political loyalty. And then came January 24th, 2026. The day that shocked even the most seasoned China watchers. Zhang Youxia, the senior vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, the second most powerful military figure in all of China after Xi Jinping himself, was announced to be under investigation for serious violations of discipline and law. Along with him fell Liu Zhenli, the chief of the Joint Staff Department. These weren't just any generals. Zhang Youxia was a childhood friend of Xi Jinping. Their fathers had worked together. She had personally appointed him to the highest operational military post in the country. If she couldn't trust Zhang Youxia, who could he trust? The official statement from the PLA Daily said that Zhang and Liu had fueled political and corruption problems that threatened the party's absolute leadership over the armed forces and had seriously trampled on and undermined Xi's authority as CMC chairman. Some analysts speculated about factionalism, about Zhang accumulating too much influence. Others wondered if it was connected to the earlier corruption scandals in the rocket force. But whatever the real reason, the result was clear. The Central Military Commission, which normally has 7 members, had been reduced to just 2. Xi Jinping himself and Jiang Shengmin, a political commissar whose entire career had been focused on discipline and personnel, not military operations. To put this in perspective, since 2022, over 100 senior PLA officers have been purged or gone missing. That's not a typo. Over 100 generals and lieutenant generals swept aside in what the Size China Power Project has called the most extensive military purge in PLA history. Every service branch has been affected. Every theater command has been touched. The professional core of the People's Liberation Army has been gutted. And here's where the 3 scientists we started with come back into the picture. Because what we're seeing now isn't just a military purge. It's expanding into the defense industrial and scientific establishment. In February 2026, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress stripped 3 defense industry executives of their legislative credentials. Zhou Ximin, former chairman of Aviation Industry Corporation of China. Liu Congli, former president of the China Academy of Engineering Physics, the very institution responsible for nuclear weapons research. And Luo Qi, former chief engineer of China National Nuclear Corporation. The same month, reports emerged that rocket scientist Xiao Longshu had been expelled from the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. Wang Xiaojun, another prominent rocket scientist, was also caught up in the dragnet. You see the pattern now, right? It's not just about generals taking bribes for promotions. It's not just about defense ministers enriching themselves. The purge has spread to the scientists who design the weapons, the engineers who build them, and the executives who run the companies that produce them. And when the profiles of Zhao Shengeng, Wu Manqing, and Wei Yin disappeared from the Chinese Academy of Engineering website, it sent a clear signal. No one is safe. Not even the men who helped build China's most advanced and sensitive military capabilities. So what's really going on here? Let me give you a few theories that serious analysts are considering. The first theory is straightforward corruption. According to U.S. intelligence assessments reported by Bloomberg in January 2024, the corruption in China's military was so bad that some missiles were filled with water instead of fuel. Entire missile silos in western China reportedly had faulty lids that would prevent the missiles from launching properly. Think about that. China has been building hundreds of new nuclear missile silos, and American intelligence believes that some of them might not even work because contractors pocketed the money that should have gone into quality construction. If that's true, and if Xi Jinping discovered just how deep the rot goes, the purge makes a lot of sense. The second theory involves security breaches. There have been unconfirmed reports, including from the Wall Street Journal, suggesting that some of the purged officials may have leaked sensitive information. The PLA daily editorial about Zhang Youxia and Liu Zhenli specifically mention issues that threaten the party's absolute leadership, which some analysts interpret as code for suspected disloyalty or even contact with foreign intelligence services. The third theory is about political power. In authoritarian systems, the leader must maintain absolute control over the military. Xi Jinping came to power in 2012 and launched his first major anti-corruption campaign shortly after. That campaign took down 2 former vice chairmen of the Central Military Commission, Guo Boxiong and Su Kaiho. But after that initial wave, many believe the military had been cleaned up. The current purge suggests that either the corruption never really stopped, or that Xi is using anti-corruption as a tool to remove anyone he perceives as a potential threat, regardless of whether they're actually corrupt. Now, let me tell you what this means for the bigger picture, because this isn't just an internal Chinese political drama. This has real implications for global security. First, there's the question of military readiness. You cannot purge over 100 senior officers and maintain combat effectiveness. You just can't. The institutional knowledge, the relationships, the experience, all of that gets disrupted when you remove that many leaders. And when you're simultaneously purging the scientists and engineers who design and maintain your weapon systems, the problems compound. Second, there's the question of the nuclear arsenal. Zhao Xiangang wasn't just any scientist. He was one of the guardians of China's nuclear deterrent. He built the systems that allow China to maintain and modernize its nuclear weapons without testing. If he's under investigation, what does that mean for the programs he oversaw? Are there problems with China's nuclear warheads that we don't know about? The fact that Liu Congli and Luo Qi, both deeply connected to nuclear weapons research, have also been purged raises even more questions. Third, there's the question of Xi Jinping's own security. When a leader has to purge his childhood friend, the second most powerful military figure in the country, it suggests one of two things. Either the corruption was so bad that even Xi's closest allies were involved, or she has become so paranoid that no one is beyond suspicion. Neither scenario is comforting when we're talking about the leader of a nuclear-armed nation. And fourth, there's Taiwan. The Eastern Theater Command, which is responsible for any potential military operation against Taiwan, has not been immune to these purges. Lin Xiangyang, a former Eastern Theater Command commander, was among those expelled. The rocket force, which would be critical to any Taiwan scenario, has seen 2 consecutive commanders purged. The Navy has lost senior admirals. At a time when tensions across the Taiwan Strait remain high, China's military leadership is in chaos. So where does this leave us? Here's my honest assessment. What we're witnessing in China right now is unprecedented. Not even during the Cultural Revolution did the military experience this level of systematic dismantling of its top leadership. Xi Jinping is essentially rebuilding the People's Liberation Army from scratch, replacing experienced commanders with officers he believes are personally loyal to him, regardless of their qualifications. The disappearance of Zhao Xiangang, Wu Manqing, and Wei Yin suggests that this process has now expanded beyond the uniformed military into the scientific and industrial backbone of China's defense establishment. In the short term, this probably means China is less likely to take major military action. You don't launch an invasion of Taiwan when your military leadership is in turmoil and you're not sure whether your missiles will actually work. But in the long term, the picture is much less clear. If Xi succeeds in building a military that is completely loyal to him personally, with no internal checks or balances, what happens then? A more centralized, less diverse leadership might be quicker to follow orders, but would also be less likely to push back against bad decisions. The profiles of 3 of China's most important weapons scientists have been erased. The Central Military Commission has been gutted. Over 100 senior officers have been purged. And Xi Jinping sits alone at the top, surrounded by an ever-shrinking circle of people he's willing to trust. What happens next is anyone's guess, but one thing is certain. The People's Liberation Army of 2026 is not the same force it was just a few years ago, and the world is still trying to figure out what that means. That's the story of what's happening inside China's military right now. If you found this valuable, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement really does help us reach more people who want to understand these critical issues. Share this with friends and family who need to know what's going on in China. And drop a comment below. What do you think is really behind these purges? Is it genuine anti-corruption, or is something else going on? I want to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.